Hello, everybody. I'm Bart Massey. Welcome once again to Intro to Programming. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a look of how we can use objects as a programming tool in practice. Objects are a little confusing, and I find it's probably easier to figure out what you're doing with them and why you want them by using them to do something, maybe, than it is to just describe them abstractly. Thus, we're going to build a little command line grocery list application, the kind of application that people have been building to learn to program for as long as I've been programming. And so if you want some basics of the command line, and in particular command line argument processing, I have another video that describes that. We're just going to dive right in here. Because I'm working to build a command line app today, I'm not going to mess around with the Moo environment. I'm just going to drop into my favorite editor. And I am going to work with a code base that I have already written. If we look at this, you'll find that this URL, github.com pdxcs intro grolm.git is our, if you go there, you'll see our application as it's finished. So today the plan is to work on Grolm. What's Grolm? Grolm is a grocery list manager. That's a terrible, terrible name, but we needed something. And like I say, we're going to write this as a little thing you can invoke from the command line in Python. The idea here is to be able to collect a list of groceries with the quantity of each one that you want to buy. And we're going to pile that list up and be able to print it at any point. We're going to be able to save it to disk so that, we have our list written down. We'll be able to restore it from disk. And so that's the plan for today, is to do that. And as we go, I'm going to sort of comment this code and talk about it. It is already written, but it may get changes. It certainly will get comments. A single grocery together with type of grocery together with its quantity is what we've got here. This is a class. A class is a sort of template for defining objects. I can make objects of class grocery list item, and those objects will all be grocery list items. And what does that mean? Well, when we initialize the class, we are past the grocery list item we're setting up. We'll pass it the name of the grocery that we want to do and the quantity of that grocery. We're going to insist that quantity of groceries not be a negative number and not be 0. Right now, the program will crash if the user puts in 0 or a negative number, which is pretty unacceptable, but that's how we've got it set up. A future enhancement would be to instead give a reasonable error message when the user tries to create some grocery that doesn't, that has a bad quantity. So we're going to just remember those things. We're going to attach the name of the grocery to the grocery object in its name field. We're going to attach the quantity of the grocery to the object in its quantity field. And that's it. We're done initializing. And so if we want to test this, which we probably should at some point, test that we can create and show a grocery item. You might be a better word here. We'll say test grocery equals grocery list item keys, and we'll buy 3. What is 3? I don't know. 3 bags, 3 peas, 3 cans. Maybe we'll say canned peas, and that'll be obvious it's 3 cans. And so now we've got a grocery object sitting in test grocery. And what we want to check is that the representation of that grocery, that is the string that you would want to see when somebody asked what they had, we've set this up as an F string. We make sure that if the quantity is 1, we don't qualify it at all with the quantity. Otherwise, we use an F string. We just return the name. Otherwise, we return the name, a space, open paren, the actual number, followed by X. That's a little Unicode X symbol there, Unicode time symbol. Unicode's kind of awesome. And then a close paren. So let's make sure that this thing makes sense. Assert test grocery dot repr. And notice that we don't pass self, we don't pass the object. That's sort of implicit when in using this dot notation to call things, or in this constructor notation to call things. And what we're going to say, well, what should that look like? That should be can peas space open paren 3x close paren, I think. And that's what that should be equal to, is that. And let's do it without one, because it's always good to test both paths of the code. And in that case, it just should say can peas when we ask what we've got. And so there's some tests that we can run. I don't think there's that much to comment here. This is show this item in sort of easy form. I don't know. I don't even know what words to use here. And appropriate, usable, viewable form. I don't know. And so now we've got that, and that's going to be a thing. So that's a grocery list item. And one of the things we need to be able to do is read a grocery list item. And to do that, and that's going to take a string, the representation to start with. Maybe rep's a bad name here. I'm beginning to think it is. So let's description return an appropriate item. Excuse me. So what we're going to do here, I don't like this. I'm going to call this desk, I think, instead of repr, because it's confusing otherwise. So what's desk is a string. Then what we're going to do is, if there's an open paren somewhere in desk, then we're going to assume that it's part of a quantity. And there again, this will crash or do the wrong thing if we have other parentheses in the grocery list items. This is another opportunity for checking. But for right now, we're going to say, let's just mark that down. If any left paren in X in desk is assumed to be the start of a quantity. And so now we're going to try to get the quantity out. We're going to find where the open paren is, and we're going to say, well, everything from there to the X should be a number. And we should maybe check that. Right. Let's just call that quantity string. And we should probably assert quantity stir dot is digit. So let's make sure that we do this. Yeah, I chose to do this thing where instead of where we use a sort of an advanced feature of Python strings. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the position of this, find the position of this, and then, and notice that we start from the right. So if there's other parentheses besides the quantity ones, then it will handle that okay at least. And what we're going to do is take the string up to just before the first parenthesis, and that's going to be our name, and we change that to desk. Up to the first parenthesis, this says take a copy of the string up to this position, and this position in this case is the position of the parenthesis. And the quantity stir is going to be, well, take everything just past the parenthesis up till just before the times, and that should be the string representing the quantity. We make sure that's all digits. The whole thing's a number. We convert it to a quantity. And again, if it isn't, if any of this goes wrong, we just crash or produce the wrong thing. This is not good. And otherwise, we just say, well, whatever's in that line is the name. If there's no parentheses in there, then we assume the quantity is 1. And we're going to strip the name because it might have white space in it left over from messing around. We'll make sure the name isn't empty because that would be bad. And we return a grocery list item with the new name and the new quantity. And there we go. We got a thing. So that's the thing that reads an item. Okay. And once we've got list items nailed down, then we can build a grocery list. Grocery list. A list of ordered items. And an ordered list of items. And there again, we're just going to have an items field in our objects. So we can create a new grocery list object by calling grocery list. We don't need any arguments. It creates an empty grocery list with no file name associated with it. If we want to, we can set a file name to save and load from with this set file name method. And add is add an item, a grocery list item at the end of the list. And show is print the current list. And that just, this thing just tacks the item onto the end of the items list that we're maintaining. This goes over the items list we're maintaining, printing each one. And notice it prints it by calling item.repr. Remember, repr up here is the method of the grocery list item that returns its string that you're supposed to describe it as. And so we're here having this object, call methods of these objects to make them visible. So we get a string back from item.repr and we print that string. Saving, well, we first, again, crash if a file name hasn't been set yet. Again, not ideal. We open the file name for writing. And again, crash if it doesn't work. And then each item, we print its representation into the file, and that's what this file equals F argument does, is it makes sure that this file is where you're printing to, and then you close the file. Never forget to close your files. I forgot to close my files right here. So let's add a comment here. Save list to file given by current file name. Okay. And down here, load the list from the file given by the current file name. And so again, we make sure we have a file name, we open the file for reading, and then for each item, remember this thing, Again, we're going to start using desc instead of repr for these. For each item description, we use read item to convert it into a grocery list item, and then we attack that item onto the end of the list. And here I'm doing by using append. That arguably is not the right way to do it. What I should be calling is my own save method, or my own add method, right? I have a method that does this. So let's just say self.add item, right? So I can call my own methods from in here. There's no reason I can't. A grocery list object can, in its load method, call its add method, and that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, and that actually works out better. And then, like I say, remember to close the file. All right, so now we have two classes of object. I can make grocery list item objects, and I can make grocery list objects. And I probably should add some tests for this too. So let's do that. And here we don't have any arguments, right? Init only took self, so we don't have any arguments to create a grocery list. And we'll add some items to it. Where do we get those items from? Oh, probably the obvious place. What did we call that thing? Read item keys. We'll have one thing in canned peas this time. And we don't have to do it this way. Grocery list item milk 2. There we go. So we now we got canned peas and 2 milks in our grocery list. And now, how do we test show? Well, show's really hard to test because I don't have any way to sort of see what Python is printing from inside my program. I could, for example, print to a file and then read that file in. But to do that, I'd have to fix the show method to be able to print to a file. Sometimes you don't get to test all the methods. So far, we've done add. We're going to just check this thing by just mucking around with this thing's fields, which isn't the best plan, but it's what we're going to do. Items equals a list containing a couple things, right? Grocery list item can keys, comma 2. I don't know if this is going to work. No, this isn't going to work because we haven't defined equality for these things. Let's just do a spot check here. We'll make sure that the second item in the list is has that name, and we'll be good to go. And then what we're going to do is save and load and make sure that that works right. Nah, no, we're not. This is enough testing. This will be fine. So now we've got at least a little bit of a test that all of this can work. We haven't tested save. We haven't tested load. We haven't tested show. Sometimes you don't test everything. Sometimes you just try it out. Okay, now, test some basic functions of grocery list. And now we're going to make a new grocery list that's sort of our global grocery list. We're going to start a new one, and this is the one we're going to work with for real. And right here, we're going to process grocery list commands. So now we're going to have one of those loops that loops forever, or at least until you break out of it right here. And what that loop's going to do is it's going to get a string from the user. It's going to break that string into words at white space. So remember, let's do this. This thing returns a list consisting of the words in this thing, right? If there were more characters here, then it'll still split to words. That's really useful when we're processing commands. So we're going to get our command string, we're going to split it into words, and then we're going to find out how many words we have. If the user just hit return, if they didn't type anything but white space, then we will just ask the user again. Otherwise, if the first word is quit and you have one word, then we're done. We'll break out of this while loop and go down to the bottom, and we will exit the program. Otherwise, if the first word is add, and there are two words, or two or more words, then we assume the quantity is 1. We check to see if there's possibly a quantity, and here we're going to use a little bit of different notation. We're not going to use read words or whatever. We're just going to allow you to tack a number on the end, and that'll be a quantity. Maybe that number should have been on the beginning. You could have that argument. And yeah, so assume a number on the end is a quantity, right? So I want to make it easier to type. I don't want the user to have to type all these parentheses and stuff. And so if it looks like a number, we'll turn it into a number and set the quantity to that. Then we'll join the rest of the words. Notice that we throw away the quantity word then. We join the rest of the words, and now we make a new grocery list item and we add that. So the add command is how we get an item added to the grocery list. The rest are really easy. If the user asks to show, then we'll show the groceries. If the user asks to set the file name with the file command, then the user we'll take whatever word is next and make that be the file name. If the user asks to load from the current file, then we'll load. If the user asks to save to the current file, we'll save. And otherwise, we'll say, we don't know. We don't know what you wanted to do there. And that's it. That's the whole program right there. So let's try it out. Let's try out Grom. It just so happens I have some groceries here. So Python 3 grom.py. Whoops, I messed up. Name equals name.stripped. So one of my changes messed us up. Oh, repr desk, not repr. There we are. And now we have a grocery list manager. We can quit right away. That'll work. Hey, look at that. We're back out of the program. But if we say add cotton balls, then when I say show, it says, look, we've got cotton balls. And I can say file groceries. And now it's like, okay, the file's named groceries. Let's load from that. And another bug. Oh, yep, I rep'd again. So changing that name. Changing names is hard. 35 grom.py. And, this is when you're debugging and you start doing your root cause analysis. Let's look at every place that the string repr appears. That's on purpose. 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 Okay, we should have fixed the last of those bugs. Let's try again. And so now it's going to know that when I say load, it's going to load from the grocery file. Oh, yeah, and then I spelled isDigit wrong. Boy, this is full of bugs in the new code I added. Oops, and now I'm in the wrong editor. Let's fix this so that it's isDigit without an underbar. And again, let's see if I made similar dumb mistakes somewhere else. It doesn't look like. There again, I just remembered the name wrong. That was the root cause of that error. Okay, this time for sure, Rocky. Hey, look at that. Let's see what we got now. Hey, we got cotton balls, which we put on the list first, and then corn, and then a couple of Oreos, and 10 toilet papers. And now we've got our fine list. It has all the groceries I loaded from that file, plus the one I typed in here. Let's save to make sure it's all saved. Didn't hurt a thing. And then if I quit, then I look at my groceries file, and there's my grocery list. And that, folks, is a grocery list manager. Of course, this will be online. Like I said, you can take a look at the source code and think about it. But hopefully that gives you some idea of what we're doing with objects. Let's look at the use of objects in this thing one more time. We have an object that represents a grocery list item. And that's really nice because what it means is that we can group information about the grocery in a single thing, with little variables that are local to the object, the fields. And then we have a thing for the list itself, and that lets us group all the methods that work with the list in a single place so that we can call nice things on it. And it lets us there again have these fields like the save file name, the load save file name, and the list. And so, working with objects like this is really common in Python, and we do it all the time. You've already seen a few objects floating around here and there. Strings, like I say, can be thought of as objects, and they have their own methods. So, yeah, that's some object-oriented programming. I hope this was helpful. I hope you're all staying safe and well in this difficult time, and I look forward to talking to you again. Take care.